Okay, so I'm a law professor at Hofstra, the director of the Family Law Center at Hofstra, and an ETL fellow. And so what I'm going to be talking about is what Becky already introduced, which is the HFI project about developing a resource center for separating and divorcing families at Denver. You'll notice that's not my school. So I was served as a consultant to the development of this center, and it was the opportunity of a lifetime. In many ways, this is, in my view, an educational dream. It's also designed to create law reform, the way we address the problems of divorce and separation in families. It takes a village to raise a center. You can't do this alone, and these folks and all of the Denver community have been enormous assets to doing this center. What is it? Okay, IL's created a model for separating and divorcing families that envisions a collaborative relationship with the courts, a focus on the family's children, interdisciplinary services, and interdisciplinary partnerships in the community. The idea was to create a nonprofit resource center loosely modeled on the Australian resource centers, which would provide an out-of-court alternative, a place where families have access to interdisciplinary resources during divorce and separation, and most importantly, from the perspective of this group, an experiential learning environment for law students to work with students from other disciplines. Why do we want to do that? Divorce is stressful for parents economically and emotionally. It is a point of risk for children, not that they can't get over it, but they can, but they need support. And access to justice is absolutely critical. Stress for parents, economic, increase in mental health issues, decrease in employee productivity, increase in the risk of domestic violence are just some of the documented risks that result during divorce and separation. Children, conflict during divorce between parents increases a child's risk of mental health issues, behavioral issues, substance abuse, drop in school performance, failing to pay child support. Children need accessible support and therapy, and they need an appropriate voice in decisions that affect them. Access to justice. Family court caseloads are increasing dramatically. Most parents cannot afford lawyers. About 70% of our population is unrepresented in divorce actions. Parents also seem to dislike and distrust litigation and lawyers. That's the center services, okay? The core of it is legal drafting and dispute resolution, which is otherwise called mediation. The rest of it would be called, in social work terminology, wraparound services. There's an assessment and a screening, and then a plan. Student learning, okay? 3 questions. What do they learn? How do they learn? What do they learn and how do they learn? What are the knowledge? What are the skills? And what are the values? Let's wait for the next slide. How do they learn? All classes are joint, law and mental health students together. There is an intensive simulation-based training program at the beginning of student enrollment. It includes mediation training. The training program introduces students to Denver divorce courts in the community and Friday seminars. What do they learn? The law of divorce, law and ethics of mediation, therapy and interdisciplinary practice, mental health knowledge. How do children react to divorce? What stages do parents go through? And financial planning associated with divorce and separation, which for most of our population is the management of debt. What skills do the students get? Counseling. It's an emphasis, rather than on litigation, on identifying alternatives for people and helping them choose between them. They learn mediation skills. They learn to draft. Values. Their perspective on what lawyers do changes. They aren't litigators and zealous advocates so much as counselors. The importance of collaboration with other professions, the need to promote access to justice, and belief that positive change in the legal system is possible. Evaluation. ILS is undertaking a 3-year evaluation, both from the perspective of families and the perspective of student learning. So what I'm about to report to you is somewhat impressionistic, but I believe the evaluation will show it. 80 families to date, 118 children, 18 final orders hearings held at the center instead of the courthouse. I'll talk about that in a minute. Many parents are referred by the court, but many more are walk-ins, and many of them are lower middle class and middle class who have been priced out of the legal system. Services. The parents clearly like the focus on their children, the problem-solving emphasis, the one-stop shopping for services. They get it everywhere. And the final hearings at the center, not the courthouse. Students' progress to date. I want to read you just quickly one of the evaluations. We have grown in our abilities to be flexible and independent problem solvers. We recognize the value of allowing processes to evolve over time. We can adapt to changing circumstances, and we have become increasingly capable of trusting and respecting not only other professionals, but the often diverse perspectives offered by our clients. That is the first divorce hearing in the United States that I am aware of that took place outside of a courtroom. The judge came to the center. The documents were filed electronically. That family never saw the inside of a courtroom, for which they were grateful. The judge also did a wonderful job of essentially blessing their agreements, telling them they did really well for their children, and empowering the students to do more in future divorces. Thank you.